أنا مسلم وأقولها ملء الفؤاد وفي حنايا الأضلع أنا مسلم.
Ibn Qayyim has some interesting words. He said, Allah Azza wa Jal loves some of His servants so much, He reserves for them high places in Jannah. So you have this high place, high level in Jannah, reserved for this certain servant of Allah, because Allah loves him. However, the deeds of this servant are not sufficient enough to take him up to that level. So how could he achieve it? It is by Allah making him go through trials in dunya, suffering, hardship, pain. And that is how he can climb up to his high reserved status in paradise. So Allah Azza wa Jal loved some of the Sahaba so much, but because their deeds are not sufficient to take them up to that level reserved for them in Jannah, Allah Azza wa Jal made them go through the battle of Uhud and suffer the pain and hardship and injury and defeat, and suffer the sad feelings of hearing the false news that Rasulullah ﷺ was killed. All of this was gham, all of this was distress that the Muslims had to go through. وَلِيُمَحِّصَ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. It's a purification process, it's a selection process. These are the trials. And the next, and I'm combining these in one, even though they could be separated as two different lessons, وَيَمْحَقَ الْكَافِرِينَ, and destroy the disbelievers. And Allah Azza wa Jal dislikes some of the kuffar so much that they have places for them reserved in hellfire, and Allah Azza wa Jal destroys them through their actions in dunya. So the fact that the kuffar defeated the Muslims and killed 70 of them, and the Muslims had to suffer all of this hardship under the hands of the kuffar, this is destruction for the kuffar. It's not something for them to be happy about. For Ibn Qamiyah to strike Rasulullah ﷺ and Utbah ibn Abi Waqqas to strike Rasulullah ﷺ, is that good news for them? Is that something to be happy about? That is the worst thing that ever happened to them in their lives. And they would be condemned to hellfire for eternity for it. So Allah Azza wa Jal dislikes some of the kuffar, and they deserve His damnation and eternal punishment because of the actions that they commit in dunya. So when we see that a certain nation of kufr, it appears that it has free reign to do whatever it wants with the Muslims, to kill some of them in whichever country it wants, and to round them up, interrogate them, torture them, throw them in prisons for years at end without any due course of law. Is that good news for them? That's a sign that Allah Azza wa Jal is angry with this nation or people. That's a sign that Allah Azza wa Jal has His wrath on them. That's a sign of what will happen to them on the Day of Judgment. So Allah Azza wa Jal gives these tyrants chance in dunya so that they could achieve rightfully and claim their places in hellfire. One should not think this is a sign that Muslims are weak or that this religion will defeat it. No. This is an indication, and we could, for example, bring up the example of Fir'aun, how he succeeded in punishing the children of Israel for years. Is that something for Fir'aun to be happy about? No. That was because Allah Azza wa Jal was building a case against him. And Allah Azza wa Jal was gathering evidence against him to be presented on the Day of Judgment. And that's exactly what's happening with the enemies of Allah today. Allah is building a case against them. Don't think that they will escape justice. Allah Azza wa Jal sees and hears everything. And on the Day of Judgment, all of what they have done will be presented to them in the court of justice of the Day of Judgment. That's why it's called Yawm al-Qiyamah, the Day of Judgment, Yawm al-Hisab. Because Allah Azza wa Jal will judge upon them. And all of this evidence will be presented to them. Nothing will be hidden. لا تخفى عليه خافية. Nothing is hidden from the eyes of Allah Azza wa Jal, the All-Knowing. So this is a hikmah that you shouldn't neglect or overlook. Allah Azza wa Jal is building a case against the enemies of Allah Azza wa Jal. Because Allah knows the evil of their heart, Allah Azza wa Jal makes it manifest through their actions. So that they wouldn't come on the Day of Judgment and say, oh Allah, how come you're casting us into hellfire when we haven't done any evil? So even though Allah Azza wa Jal already knows what is in their hearts, Allah Azza wa Jal gives them a chance to play it out in the real world, so that they wouldn't have any excuse on the Day of Judgment.
سبحان